Well, good day to you, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. It's nice to be here today. We're getting ready here at Eduro Learning to launch our micro-credentials, which I'm really excited about, and I'm really excited that I'm the first to get to talk to you today. I'm here in Seattle, Washington, in my office, my library, I guess, that we call it here. But just really want to take some time today to talk about this idea of micro-credentials, why I personally am so excited about them, why we at Eduro Learning are so excited about them. You're going to see me from time to time glance down at my notes. I've got some notes here to just remind myself what I want to talk about. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be every week talking about this idea of micro-credentials and why we believe they are going to change the way we do professional development in education. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we know that professional development models for a long time in schools haven't worked. There's a lot of research out there showing that the model of the one-off PD day just doesn't lead to better teaching and learning. And there's other models out there. And with the internet, we have a new possibility of what we're going to do and how we use the internet to teach and learn as teachers. And I think that to me is the exciting part, is micro-credentials really allow us to learn in new and different ways. So there's just two things I'm going to touch on today. One is what is a micro-credential? They've been around for a while. You might not notice them or see them as micro-credentials, but we'll talk about that a little bit. And then what are some of the things? I've got 4 things on why we believe here at Eduro Learning, why I believe they are the future professional development in schools. So to start us off, just the idea of what is a micro-credential. They're called many different things. We're trying to figure out, I think we're in this time period right now where we're trying to figure out what we're going to call them. Micro-credentials seems to be the name that is gaining the most traction. And what they are is they're a mini degree or a certification. And a lot of times now what we're talking about badges. The idea is that you do some type of course or you do some professional learning, and then you get a stamp of approval from somebody for those. So some of the ones that I think are probably the most popular that most educators know about are, say, the Microsoft Educator Certificate, or you can be an Apple Distinguished Educator, which is a badge that you can earn, or Google has a whole set of, Google Teacher Educator 1 level, Google Educator 2 level. There's Google Certified Trainers and Google Innovators. And to me, all of those are badges or certificates that you can earn. So what makes micro-credentials different is it's not an actual degree program. So this isn't backed by a university. The rigor happens to be usually is a little bit less with those type of ideas. And the only thing that's standing behind the badge or behind the certificate is the company itself. So for example, I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator, which means that I went through Apple's training, and Apple has said that I'm a distinguished educator. There's no university behind it. There's no clock hours behind it or continuing education credits. It's just Apple saying, yes, you know what you're doing with a Mac computer, with Apple products, and so we will give you a badge or a stamp of certification. The same thing with Google. I'm a Google certified trainer, which means I've taken Google's courses, and Google has given me their stamp or their approval that I know Google tools. Now, in the education world, we know this kind of stuff, like this stuff you do on your own, and this stuff means something, when it comes to recruiting. We get these badges and it looks good on a resume. When you're ready to go change your school or you want to change positions in the school, to have something like a Google certified educator, it's just backed by Google, but there's a badge that you can put on your resume to show that you continually learn. So that's really where these started. And I think where they're starting to morph to is where we here at Eduro Learning are starting to see is, that's all great, but we need to be giving teachers credit for that learning. Right now, the only credit a teacher gets for that type of training is a badge to put on your resume. And we need to somehow figure out a way to make these a little more worthwhile, I guess. And I think that's where we're coming from with these, is starting to look at how can they be specifically focused for schools in a way that you don't have to go back to university. These aren't a master's degree that's going to cost you $30,000, but there's specific professional development opportunities that a teacher can take for their own professional learning that leads to clock hours or recertification credits that a school can come back and say, yes, we see that you have this stamp from this company or this institution that even though it's not degree oriented in the sense of a university degree, that you did some learning and there is an outcome there. And I think that's where we're headed with these, and that's what makes us really excited. So that's kind of what micro-credentials are. Is there a certificate, a badge, or a micro-credential? They've been called many different things, but they're where a company, much like us or much like Apple or somebody, will stand behind saying, we say that you've done this work. Now, where ours differ and where we're seeing this change is behind our micro-credentials, and you're seeing a lot of different companies. I don't want to think that this is only an Eduro thing, but what we're seeing is we're partnering with organizations and universities to stand behind that learning as well for educators. So here at Eduro Learning, we have partnered with Heritage Institute, which runs continuing education units here in the state of Washington and in the Northwest that can be used almost everywhere, every school district. You'll have to check with your own school and school district with it. And behind that, they work with Antioch University to make sure that all of our courses are actually at a 500 level course. So you're talking about courses that have standards behind them, courses that have some rigor and actually have been approved by a university for continuing education credits, which means that as you take these courses in most school districts, you can then move up a salary scale, or schools can look at this and see that there's a stamp behind just a company or a person saying, yeah, you did that. There's real learning going to happen. So that as we talk about this, so that's kind of the idea of a micro-credential and why we're so excited about it. So why do I think they're the future? Why do we at Eduro think that they're the future PD? So I've got 4 things written down here that I just want to talk about. I think the first thing that I think is really exciting and where we know this is headed is it takes advantage of the internet. So many educators that I know do their own learning already on the internet. And we have not done, I don't think, in education, a really good job of capturing that. There's so much out there to learn, and there's so many different people to learn from and ways to learn, that what micro-credentials do is allow us to use the internet in a way that makes professional development relevant to that teacher wherever they happen to be. With that then, so the first thing is it takes advantage of the internet. The second thing is that they're self-paced. A really good micro-credential needs to move at the pace of educators. And this is something, being teachers, all of us here at Eduro Learning, being teachers ourselves, are really passionate about this because we know there are those times of year, say for example, if you're an elementary teacher or high school teacher, grades are due at the end of the semester. You want to be able to say, okay, I need to pause this for a couple weeks and go and finish doing my day job and then come back. And I think that's the thing we really understand. And the thing I like is that because they're self-paced, you get to move at the pace that is right for you, right? It allows that, what we say, anytime, anywhere learning. And to me, that is really the powerful piece. Is there are micro-credentials and there are some courses that we want you to move as a cohort, but even within that cohort, there needs to be flexibility for a professional to say, look, this week I'm really falling behind, or can I do, I've got a week that's kind of light, or maybe you are on spring break and you want to use that time to be able to go through a course. So to me, that's really important, is that they are self-paced. You get to kind of decide where and when you want to go. But at the same time, they make you part of a community. And to me, that's my third point. So number one being they take advantage of the internet and all that it has to offer. Number two, that they're self-paced, allowing for a teacher to learn anywhere, anytime. And then thirdly is it creates a community. One of the things that we write in the PDF that you can download is this idea that learning alone is not for everyone. Some people like to learn on their own, but a lot of people, and we know this through good research, that we want to create a community. We create classroom culture or classroom communities with our students. We need to do the same with our professional learning. And where this differs from the way that professional development has been done in the past is if you go to a one-off PD workshop, there's usually no follow-up from that. A school will have a PD day, you bring in a presenter, everyone moves at the same pace, everyone's moving through the training, whether it's relevant for you or not, because the school district has decided that's the day ready for you. When we talk about this, about using a micro-credential and what the internet allows, it allows people to find people that move at their pace. And we're able then to create communities of learners around professional development, regardless of where you live, and more based on your passion, your interests, and your own pace of learning throughout this. And to me, that's a goal, is how do we create these communities? And I will say that here at eDuro Learning, we're this, I think, some of the best discussions that all of us have had. Kim, Chrissy, and I, we talk about this quite often, is how do you create a community that allows people to feel connected, but at the same time be able to learn at their own pace? And that's a really interesting kind of idea. We want to treat teachers like the professionals they are and give them the freedom. But if you're going to learn as a community, there's a sense of everybody being in it together. And so trying to figure out that balance between how much do you help people move along, how do you help people connect and find each other, and create a community that teachers learn together. So that's number 3, is creating that community of learners together. And then the last thing I just want to touch on in this first video for us is the idea of it being focused. One of the things that we see with a lot of professional development and a lot of what the research says that over the years has not happened a lot in schools is that it's focused professional development. The one-day workshop does not see any changes in classroom teaching with students, the change of the teacher mindset. And we know that you wouldn't have a one day of math class and then say, okay, everybody knows math and you move on. That's not the way this works. And so with micro-credentials, we're able to focus in on what it is that you want to do. If you truly want to learn, and here at eDuro Learning, we focus on technology integration, or integrating technology authentically and purposefully into your everyday use in the classroom. If that is something that you're interested in and something you want to get better at, you can then be focused in on the exact courses that you want to take in order to make that happen. And so we're launching a couple different micro-credentials here at eDuro Learning around this. And you can go to our website, edurolearning.com. And if you click on teachers at the top, you'll see micro-credentials underneath and get more information on these. But we have a micro-credential called the one-to-one teacher. There are a lot of teachers who are now going into one-to-one classrooms who might not have been in a one-to-one classroom before. And so we've put together some courses for a micro-credential that we feel will help teachers navigate that new learning landscape, that things change significantly when every kid has a device in front of you. And so there's a whole micro-credential for teachers who are interested in becoming better at being a one-to-one teacher, and you can get a micro-credential for that. At the same time, all of our courses are backed by a Heritage Institute, which is backed by Antioch University of Seattle, here in Seattle, Washington. And so you can earn continuing education credits. And our goal, we're still in the process of working this out, but our goal is that these micro-credentials will be at least, if not more, but at least 15 continuing education credits. And we're doing that because in most school districts I visit, in most school districts I've talked with, 15 continuing credits is a jump on the pay scale. So not only are you going to be able to take a micro-credential that is focused on something that you're passionate about or something you want to learn more about. But at the end of it, you will actually get a badge. You'll get a certificate saying that you finished this course. You will also get continuing education credits to move up the pay scale at the same time. So what we're seeing with a lot of these is we're seeing school districts partner with us to offer these specifically for their school. The other micro-credential that we have is one called the Connected Teacher. And this micro-credential is really based around the idea of how do we connect classrooms? We're always talking about like the internet today allows us to break down the classroom walls. Well, what does that mean? And if that is something you're passionate about as an educator, how do we start doing that? What do we start doing? And so that micro-credential, again, you can find more information on our website, really looks at the idea of connected classrooms and how do we find each other and how do we get kids to understand to break down those classroom walls and get outside of wherever you happen to be. So those are two that we have coming up. We have another one called COTEL, which is a Certificate of Information Literacy, of Educational Technology and Information Literacy, Certificate of Educational Technology and Information Literacy. I think I would know that by now. Another micro-credential that is a little more in-depth. That one's been around since 2009 and is just a great program to help you connect with educators around the world. And so we've got these different micro-credentials. We've even got one for parents on the website that you can see. But the idea here is, how do we take advantage of the internet? Number one. Number two, how do we allow self-paced and really understand that teachers are professional and you can learn anytime, anywhere that is relevant to you? Thirdly, how do we create communities around learning, around passion? And that to me is where I really like this, where we're seeing this go, is I like having people who are passionate in the same thing find a place to come together and learn together as a community. And then lastly, being focused. And so those are some of the things that we're talking about as we get going. We're going to go more in depth in those through these Facebook Lives and through some of our PDFs that we're giving away. Make sure that you head over to the blog and you can get the PDF that we released today with this video, which is the 5 reasons why micro-credentials are the future of education. That goes into a little more depth into some of this stuff. And then every week we're going to be releasing some kind of PDF or video for you to just be thinking about, what does this look like maybe for you? If you're a school leader, what would this look like for your staff? Or if you're at a district level, is there some way we can bring these in, that we have focused professional development that actually leads to better classroom use of time around the integration of technology? So that's it for this one. This is the first one of the rise of the micro-credential in education. Thank you for joining me. And again, head on over to our blog or head on over to edurolearning.com. You'll find more information over there, and make sure that you're on our mailing list, as every week now we'll be sending out an email with some of these PDFs and other resources for you. So thank you and have a great day.